Hello, everyone. Welcome to Random Encounter 321 or 321. My name is Jono Logan, and we are just 6 weeks away from both Summer Games Fest and the worldwide, except maybe for one place, release of the Switch 2. But that doesn't mean there aren't some exciting games coming out in the very near future. For example, we've been hearing some big rumors and an awful lot of evidence that the Elder Scrolls Oblivion remaster remake is on the verge of being released, maybe even like shadow dropped. This huge if true, and if true, we of course will be reviewing it as soon as possible. We're recording this on Thursday, so who knows, you might know more than we do by the time you listen to this on Monday, but we're not talking about that. So first we're going to talk about a game that came out of nowhere. It wasn't a shadow drop or anything. It was announced, people knew it was coming, and then it just exploded. And we're also going to be talking about a duology of games that are incredibly important to the site's history. So joining us today are Gio.
Hello.
Tin.
Hi.
And Zach.
Howdy.
Okay, so first up, we're going to talk about Blueprints. Now, as I said before, this game kind of came out of nowhere. People were expecting it, like it was announced and everything. People thought, oh, this looks really good. And then it came out and people are like, oh, this is like Obra Dinn or Case of the Golden Idol or Outer Wilds levels of first-person puzzle or adventure. Although Case of the Golden Idol is different, but you know what I mean, like that kind of deductive puzzle game. And everyone just fell in love with it. We reviewed it for the site. Tom reviewed it and gave it a 90. Absolutely adored it. Gio and Tin, you are both here today to talk about it. You guys must have blazed through it. You played it together?
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we have like our own separate playthroughs, but like we help each other.
Yeah.
Like, the things we discover, we applied like our own playthroughs. It's been a really ideal way to play it, I think.
Oh yeah, you get to compare notes.
Yeah, exactly. And we pulled all-nighters for this game.
Yeah, willingly, because it's just that good.
Yeah.
It is just that good.
I adore playing games together. I did that with the Case of the Golden Idol with Amanda. Unfortunately, she gets incredibly motion sick with first-person games. So like this and like Portal and Obra Dinn are all out, unfortunately. So I've out of curiosity, have you two played like Obra Dinn or Outer Wilds, some of the games that people say this reminds them of?
Yeah, this is our first game of this, kind of this genre.
Yeah.
I think I don't have experience playing Obra Dinn, Outer Wilds, like Myst. Those kinds of games.
You did grab Outer Wilds recently.
Yeah,
right?
we did buy it, and now we're more
looking forward to
playing
jump on it next.
Yeah,
probably.
I really like this idea of having separate playthroughs, but like together and talking about it and trying to figure things out together. That's a neat way to play a game. So I guess you don't. I'll talk about how Obra Dinn, especially the gameplay in that comes along. So you're on the ship and it's empty and you find bodies everywhere and you have a stopwatch and you can turn back time. You can hear their last few minutes and then you can investigate a 3D space of the moment that this person died, and you can find clues, you can see things, and then you have to put things together based on environmental clues throughout the ship. And this game sounds like it does something somewhat similar, not with the time travel mechanic, but with you really need to pay attention to everything because the most unimportant thing could like unravel an entire section of the game.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds exactly like, the conceit of Blueprints too. Like even the most minor thing, the most minor detail could end up opening up this huge section of the game that we previously didn't know existed. So that tracks. That tracks for sure.
What I think I like most about I haven't played it yet. I've seen I've watched some gameplay footage. No spoilers because I would hate to spoil myself for this. Because I think this is the problem with this kind of game, and this is a problem with this kind of game, is once you know it, once you figure it out, that's the game basically. You can replay it, but like that desire to explore and discover that you can only kind of get in the first time you play it.
Yeah, that's a thing. Maybe this is a difference with Blueprints. It's like once you find out certain things, since it's also like a roguelike, it plays differently. Like you do discover something, but the next day you kind of have to do something else, and it's endless. It's like an endless possibility.
Yeah, like we keep discovering things that like flip the whole game on its head, and like it turns out we've been looking at things the wrong way and all that. And this has happened like dozens of times, I feel like in this game.
You get answers and you get more lore stuff, but after getting answers you get more questions, so it's amazing.
Oh, that sounds so good. Maybe you can tell me some about the game's, I guess, the plot, the setup for it.
Yeah, so you play as this 14-year-old kid, Simon, who like somehow like his uncle, who he's barely really met except as a kid, like he has bequeathed to him this mansion on a mountain somewhere.
The dream. I think everyone has the dream that a far off relative just gifts you a mansion.
Yes, but on the condition that
his will has a condition.
The condition that Simon has to find the 46th room of this 45-room mansion. So, because how the mansion works is that each, like, you know, you don't know which room you're going in next, so you have to pick. It's like randomized. This is where like a deck builder element comes in, where you're given like a few choices of rooms to pick, and then you pick the one that you think will help you, you know, and then until you reach this rumored 46th room.
Yeah, which is where in the grid or in the blueprint, it's only showing that the mansion only has 45 rooms.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have to find your way to reach that 46th room wherever it might be. So
it sounds like the setup of a Scooby-Doo episode. I can totally see Scooby and Shaggy like exploring the room, and every time they walk into a new one, zoinks. One of the things I like what I've been hearing is this does sound like a incredibly successful mashups of several different currently extremely popular genres, including a roguelike, deck builder elements, although I don't think you're building a deck, but that kind of thing. Yeah. There's also the classic first-person adventure game style like Myst, and then there's the deductive game like Outer Din. And it sounds like they take these elements and put them together pretty flawlessly.
Yeah. I honestly can't think of anything bad to say about this game. I feel like the RNG is tuned almost perfectly, where one of the coolest things about this game is the ways you're able to figure out how to influence the RNG so you can get the rooms you want, because technically you only have like one copy of each room in your deck, in your quote unquote deck. So if you figure out
how to place
them properly and when to place them, like it's not actually that difficult to reach the 46th room. So yeah, it's cool. Like I honestly think that the developers like have this amazing understanding of how all these genres work, and so they were able to make this masterpiece of a game.
What is the limiting factor here? Because it is a roguelike, so why can't you just walk in and find the 46th room in the first run?
Okay, so in the game, like you start off with 50 steps, and you make a step for each room you go in, in or out. So like if you ran out of steps, automatically the day ends. You start over the next day again, and then you're back at the very beginning again.
So you have to kind of jump through a bunch of hoops before you reach the 46th room, and
you have resources.
Like
you have gold. You can gather gold, and you can gather gems and keys,
and these help you unlock
specific rooms.
Mm-hmm. This mansion sounds great. Your uncle just left golden gems lying around. This is fantastic.
But the thing is, the rule for this is that you do get these gems, gold, and stuff, and you can even buy things in certain rooms. The catch is whenever you reset the day, you can't bring any item outside. And every single day you start from the entrance, which is outside. So every day, even all of your utilities and resources are gone.
So your uncle is not that generous.
Yes.
he takes back the gold. You wake up in the hotel room the next day and you're like, oh, man.
Yeah. You can only have them if you're inside the house.
That's harsh. You mentioned, okay, how can you use these resources? Because in the review that I read from Tom, he mentions that there are different colors of rooms, and each color of room serves a distinct gameplay purpose.
Yes, that's true. So you use gems and gold. Like, usually gold is used to like buy
stuff.
Tools.
Yeah, buy items, buy food.
Yeah,
to gain more energy steps.
Yeah. Gems help you unlock better rooms. Like generally, the rooms that you unlock with gems are better.
Yeah, like rare rooms.
Yeah.
Because even rooms have like categories based on rarity.
Yeah.
So some rooms require 2 gems, some rooms require 3 gems or more.
Yeah.
So if you do run out of gems along the way, and the option of rooms in the drafts mostly require gems, that's where you get locked out and you have to start all over the next day again.
In terms of, I guess, spending the money, I'm curious, are there any other characters in the game? Like, is the shop just like a series of shelves, or?
Yeah, it is. Like, you're alone. You're all alone in this journey.
I don't think you ever see another human person in this game.
Yeah, in this game. You only see yourself.
For some reason, when I pictured a shop, for some reason I pictured the merchant from Resident Evil 4 being here. And just...
What are you buying? I don't know. I mean, it could change. Who knows what will happen in this game? I feel like anything can happen at this point. But for now, in the 25 hours we've been playing.
Yeah, technically we only rolled the credits, but this game has so much more to offer. Like, a lot of other reviewers were always mentioning that they rolled credits around 15 hours, 20 hours, but they're still playing it, and they're still around 100 hours, some of them. Yeah.
Yeah, actually finding room 46 is like a very small part of the game, I would say.
That's a nice feeling when you're like, I've accomplished the goal, but there's still so much left.
Yeah.
And it's not even the post game.
Yeah.
You just barely scratch the surface.
I see, the neat thing I find about this game, I mean, there's a lot of neat things I find about this game, but some of them being, for example, I know it's not procedurally generated, but there is that kind of feeling of procedural generation in the sense that, like, the mansion is different every single time you walk into it. Although you are directing that. And I imagine, maybe I'm wrong about this, but by putting a limit like the step system in the game, I imagine that creates a tremendous feeling of tension as you're like watching your steps and you're thinking, can I accomplish this goal in this amount of time that I have left?
Yes. It's not like time per se, because
you can stay in a room for an hour or how long, as
I'm
much
using time,
as you
like,
want.
Just stepping.
Oh yeah. But actually, so like Tom mentioned, like there's some rooms kind of serve different purposes, and purple rooms tend to be like bedrooms, and when you step in them, you gain energy. You gain like steps, amount of steps. So
there are a lot of things in the game wherein, like, you're given these limited amount of things to use, but there are ways for you to improve on that, or find ways to get more of that. So
resource, often there's actually permanent upgrades in this game if you find the right,
just like in
resources
other
or rooms for
roguelikes.
them. Yeah,
it's a roguelite, not a roguelike.
Yes.
All right.
Those two damn words that are so fuzzy, and no one uses it the same way. Personally, the way I think about it is a roguelike is genuinely like a reset every single time. You start with nothing except maybe some knowledge. A roguelite has persistent upgrades that you can find, but you restart every time.
Yes, yes.
Speaking about that then, so what are some of the tools and upgrades you can get to continue into it? No spoilers there, but like, is there anything interesting?
Yeah, I mean, aside from like the upgrades to like the core resources of the game, I think without getting into spoilers, you get to unlock things around the house and on the grounds of the house that are persistent. They stay there, and so you can continue to reap benefits from them.
So the yard itself always remains static. It's just the inside of the mansion that changes?
Yes. The yard itself, for the most part, remains static, and the changes you affect there stay there.
I don't know why I'm talking about this like it's interior design 101, but I imagine that the first room that you walk into, like when you walk in the front door of the mansion, is that always the same? I imagine it's the entryway?
Yeah, it's
okay,
the same.
Be real weird
the
if you walked in
hall.
and it was just a bedroom. You're like, wow, there's a toilet in the entryway. That's weird.
Yeah, you enter through the entrance hall that gives you 3 options to choose from.
Mhm.
Like there's a left, right, and then the forward. Like you pick from 3 doors in the beginning. So
What is the soundtrack like? Because Tom talked a bit about that, and in some of the videos I've seen, it seems like this has a real interesting sound design.
Yes, it is a very moody soundtrack. I personally adore it. I think
Like I could not get you two on the show without talking about game music. So
yes. I was actually like just listening to it yesterday.
Yeah.
It's by this experimental jazz group called Trig and Guster. And I think the best way I could describe it is like doom jazz, very similar to the soundtrack to Twin Peaks season 3.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. It doesn't come up every time. Like a lot of the time, like it's silent.
Mhm.
But when in certain rooms, like music starts like bubbling up, or like when certain things happen, like music comes in, and it really helps create like this atmosphere, this uncanny, somewhat a little. It's not scary, but it is a bit spooky atmosphere because like you're alone, and you just feel you feel a light sense of dread, and it's for me, I love it. It helps immerse me in the game.
And it's not overpowering.
Yeah, it's not really overpowering at all.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making fun of their names, but Trig and Gusset, it sounds like a, I don't know, 19th century British law firm that specializes in orphans or something.
Yes.
It actually sounds like a pub. It totally sounds like a pub.
Oh, yeah.
Like, the Trig and Gusset. Oh, that's dumb. I might have to create a new card for Rhythm and talk about some of the music of deductive games, because it seems like these deductive games have some real incredible soundtracks.
Oh, count me in.
Yeah,
if that ever happens.
Yeah, I might just do that after this. Anyway, before we move on to the next thing, I did want to ask you about the puzzles, because this isn't just environmental like observations and putting together clues and things like that. There are just like genuine myst type puzzles in this game as well. So are they frustrating, or are they always really, really integrated into the game?
This game has humbled the both of us. Like sometimes we also question our mental capacity to handle things.
That's why I don't play these games.
I think the 2 puzzles people are going to encounter the most are algebra. There's like one of the first rooms you encounter is like this algebra puzzle that the more runs you do gradually gets more difficult and esoteric.
I think half the listeners of this show just decided to not play the game. Math.
It actually just doesn't tackle math. It tackles other subjects.
Yeah. It doesn't really use like the typical operators, like the plus minus times.
Yeah.
Divide. So part of the puzzle is like figuring out what does it mean by this? Like,
okay.
But when you do figure it out, it's pretty straightforward because, math is math.
Yeah, but the puzzles outside of that math thing are the ones that are gonna, oh my God, like break your brain.
Yeah.
Not even possible.
That sounds good. I like that.
The other game that most people will encounter
is called Parlor.
This is Parlor game where like it gives you like 3 statements, and you're supposed. There's like 3 boxes with 3 statements on them, and you're supposed to figure out which one has like the gems. Only one of them has the gems, but
you got to pick which statement.
No. Yeah, like which statement is true, which statement is false, and they're all like kind of like describing each other. And so like they're saying like the blue box has the gem, the black box has the gem, and then it's like kind of like a logic thing.
Yeah.
Okay, I like this, and it sounds like they're not like really. I don't know. For some reason, I'm picturing like honestly the this could have Professor Layton in it. It's the Professor Layton and the Blueprints. I mean, that would probably work actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just him and Luke wandering around the mansion building it. Actually, that does sound like a Professor Layton game now that I said it out loud.
It could very well be the next one.
Yeah. The next one is World of Steam, I think it's called. I'm actually really looking forward to it. Yeah, so from what I have heard, it's not just the fact this is, how can I put this? It sounds like the reason why Blueprints has made such a huge impact on the gaming world over the last couple of weeks is because it is an incredible blending of genres and elements like the soundtrack, the design, everything in a way that just makes it feel so coherently an experience that you can dive into, get lost in, and just it draws you back in.
Yeah, I guess to add context in regards to this game, I don't think this is spoilery because the developer did mention this before the game officially launched. But the game is also highly inspired by a certain book.
Yeah.
A picture book, right?
Yeah. It's this old Maze. It's called Maze by Christopher Manson. It's like this game book that's like 1984, 1985. And like, it's like a choose your own adventure book where like, it's like a series of images and like a description, and like you're supposed to like figure out how to leave the maze.
And back then, when this book launched, they offered to the people like a contest that if you manage to solve every little thing in that book, you can potentially win $10,000.
That is delightful. I like that. I like that story a lot. And I'm looking at it now. Yeah, it has right on the front cover, win $10,000. I mean, that's something you rarely see at a book at the bookstore. I mean, I suspect that this game does not offer a $10,000 reward. However, from what I have heard from both your reactions and the reactions of many others, it seems like it's just as rewarding as getting $10,000, or well, maybe not quite as rewarding, but a good second place.
It borrows a lot of themes from this book, but the game really still stands alone. Apart from this particular book, the developer also mentioned that he's a really big fan of myth games like Riven. So most of the puzzles in the game are like not necessarily like how it is in the game Riven, but all of his taste, I guess, like his own personal taste. He mentioned that he designed the game primarily because of what he really wants and not really what the other player wants. Like he's not really considering majority, like not of what other people would say when this game would come up. Like it's really more of like a personal thing for him.
I totally understand. And to be honest, those are the kind of games that I like the most, where it's like, it's almost designed for one person. And if it clicks, oh my God, it clicks so hard. There's something about, it's a thing that I've always hated in theater. But to be honest, they kind of have a point. And certainly when it comes to being a consumer of the content, there's a song in the show called Title of Show. And it's the chorus says, I'd rather be 9 people's favorite thing than 100 people's 9th favorite thing. And this kind of seems like that kind of game.
Yeah, that's accurate. That's accurate. That's like exactly the impulse that drove this game's development, I think.
And I got to say, for you two, if from everything I've heard, if this game is that kind of thing, you really, really need to check out Oberdin and check out Wilds and check out Golden Idol. Like these games will probably scratch the exact same itch.
Oh hell yeah, we have Outer Wilds lined up. So yeah.
I look forward to hearing your take on it. Wow, that's great. Oh, go ahead.
One more thing, probably for those who are going to play this, like you, Jono, and if ever Zach plans to, the main tip we're going to give is have a trusty notebook beside you.
Oh, that's so good.
Jot down notes. Mm-hmm. It's so important in this game.
Yes. That is excellent advice for all of the games I mentioned to you as well. That is, anything. I really do like games where it's great when they give you the tools, but there's something about like having to bring your own pencil.
Yeah, exactly.
Really immerses you in it. Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, thank you both for coming on and talking about this. I really appreciate it. And I'm so glad you enjoyed it. It looks so good. It looks so good. And it was such a nice surprise, too, that kind of came out of nowhere for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's always lovely when that kind of thing happens. Okay, well, something that's not a surprise because it was announced quite a while ago, and it had been quite a while since we were expecting it, but we finally got it, is the Lunar Remastered Collection. So I don't think that if you're listening to this, you probably already know a bit about RPGFan history and how the site started off as LunarNet. It was a classic Lunar fan site like in the 1990s. I don't think it was on GeoCities, but it's the kind of site that would have had GeoCities on the bottom of it. Like it was that kind of early days of the internet work of passion kind of thing. And RPGFan grew out of that. And the reason why it was a fan site is because the Lunar series rocks. It's so good. So it started off on the Sega CD of all things in 1992 with Lunar the Silver Star. And this game looked incredible for its time. It had they weren't really anime cutscenes, but they were anime styled cutscenes that looked incredible for the time. There was it opened up with a full song and like a very cinematic looking game. This was followed up by Lunar Eternal Blue, which was a direct sequel in 94. And that continued the story in the same world with new characters. This is not how I came to know these games. I came to know these games, like many others, when there were remakes released for the PlayStation. And it was Lunar Silver Star Story Complete and Eternal Blue Complete. And these two games were incredible. They were released in it wasn't just like in a box. This had like a hardcover book, and it was amazing. This little amazing package that just made even getting your hands on the game an experience. Working Designs handled the North American localizations of the PlayStation versions. They are known for its, let's say, distinctive writing style. And the PlayStation remakes added extra content and added full voice acting and new animated cutscenes that were not in the Sega CD version. Silver Star Story got several remakes since then. It got a remake for the Game Boy Advance. It got a PSP adaptation. All four of these versions were reviewed, actually, last year. Oh my God, Zach, how long ago was it?
It was like a year and a half ago, right? It was like December of 2023, I think, is when we dropped them for the anniversary. Yeah,
that sounds about right. So we had reviews of each one. Zach, you handled the original, didn't you?
Yes, I did the Silver Star, the Sega CD one.
Yeah. What'd you think of it? Let's rile them up a little bit.
I mean, people were not happy with my review. I promise I reviewed this higher. It's just a worse version of Lunar, the Silver Star. I mean, there's literally nothing I preferred about the Sega CD version. Well, I take that back. The music, which is common on Sega CD, slightly better. The rest of it, just worse across the board.
I honestly don't know which opening song I like more.
I do like that opening song. It's pretty cheesy, but I love it for it.
Yeah, the opening song of the Sega CD version is very like 1980s anime style opening song, whereas the opening song for the PlayStation version is very Saturday morning cartoon. It always really reminded me of the theme song from The Adventures of Teddy Ruxpin.
That's very specific, but I love it.
Take a listen to the soundtrack, the song. There's something about it that's very similar. And then the exciting thing about this particular re-release is that Eternal Blue has gotten nothing. Like it's never really been remade before, and I think it's better than the original. Personally, I love Eternal Blue. I think it's brilliant.
It's always strange to me. I mean, I know that like the sales figures dropped dramatically, I think, between Silver Star and Eternal Blue. on the PlayStation, and I'm guessing that's why they didn't get a bunch of remasters, but I don't know. It's strange.
Back then, I know that people need to cast their minds back to the 90s, but and the early 2000s, but after 1997 and Final Fantasy VII got released, anything that was 2D pixel art was like, ugh, what's that? That belongs in the Super Nintendo or Genesis, and everyone wanted blocky 3D and bad textures. That was the new hotness. So that's probably one of the reasons why. But a nice thing about 2D pixel-based games is they have life long after their release, and this game certainly did. Zach, what's your personal history with these games?
So my history is kind of similar to yours. I played Silver Star Story Complete when it came out. Basically, it was like in my era where like if an RPG was releasing, I was going to play it, and just based on everything that I was seeing about it, I was like, well, this is my jam. I got to play it, and I just adored it. Like it. We did an episode of Retro recently about, the RPGs that made us, and it was like number 3 on my list. And it was only because it was repetitive of another one that I didn't add it. So I just absolutely loved it. And then casting all the way back, Eternal Blue was for the complete version was getting delayed. And because Working Designs, everything was delayed for them. And I got desperate, and I had my dad buy like 3 because we couldn't afford to actually buy a Sega CD. But we could buy like broken Sega CDs that were like $5. And then my dad,
that's so cool,
kind of handy with electronics, was able to kind of put together a working Sega CD.
Oh my God, he MacGyvered together a Sega CD. That's amazing.
And I bought Eternal Blue for the Sega CD, and I played it that way. And I loved it. And actually, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I actually slightly prefer the Sega CD version of Lunar 2 to the PS1 version. But and then I actually had never played Eternal Blue complete to completion because it's very similar to the Sega CD version in a lot of ways. I played like the first.
It's a much more direct It's a much more direct remake, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And then I've dabbled with the GBA version and also the PSP version, and we'll get into this. I'm kind of a fan, at least to a large degree. I am a fan of the work that Working Designs did on the localization of these games. And so I was excited to replay it. And I started reading LunarNet all the way back then and got into RPGFan. So I've been around since the OG.
Well, how would you describe I don't think we need to get into the plot of both games because the second game kind of spoils some of the first game. But tell us about the world of Lunar.
So it's kind of hard to talk about it from a world perspective, I guess, because I think they hint at it in the first game that you are basically living on the moon, and that the blue star basically is Earth, and it's just this much larger planet that's off in the distance, and it's all about gods and goddesses, mostly goddesses. The goddess Althena, who helped start this world, and you have dragon masters and dragons, and it's just all very very anime tropey. It's very wholesome in that way. It's just a world full of colorful characters and just like color, and it in a way that is very charming and simple.
If I had to compare it, it's a better game, I think, but I think not an inspiration. It kind of looks a little bit closer to like Lufia than a Dragon Quest or Final Fantasy.
Yeah. I think that there are some things in common there, and I think Lufia 2 stands head and shoulders with these games too. So yeah, I agree.
One of the things I wanted to ask was, this is the kind of game that if someone is looking for, well, first off, it's a remaster. Mm-hmm. So like it's not going to have the most cutting edge graphics or anything, but this is the kind of game that if you grew up playing 16 and 32-bit RPGs, that you are going to play this and it is going to feel very much like home because it embraces many classic JRPG tropes. What do you think works best in that sense in these games?
I think that it doesn't take itself too seriously or try too hard in ways that it takes itself seriously in a lot of ways, but like in ways that RPGs often do, where it's like, we're fighting the power of darkness and we're together, but it's like, it knows that it's not trying to tell some grand epic story that is, these stories are big, but it's not telling something that is convoluted or complicated. It's very accessible to someone who's playing it. And so I think that's the way I would describe it, but it's full of characters who are just full of charm and wit, and you like them, and their interactions with each other are excellent in both games. And so it's really about the characters.
I mean, part of that, I would imagine, is the working design's localization, which is quite famously loved by some and not loved by others. I've always liked it. I think that some of the attempts at humor missed the mark, but on the whole, I think they created quite an engaging localization of the story. Yeah, it was a very light touch.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard for me to separate my love for these games from those localizations, because so much of the character writing is from the localization, especially since they certainly took a lot of liberties with the Japanese script, and that was not a thing that happened back then. I know people, I don't want to get down the rabbit hole of people complaining about that, but they would just wholesale just like wipe clean all NPC dialogue and just like make it their own. And sure, there were some things like if you go back and play those games now, especially like the Sega CD versions, they say some things that are just not cool. They weren't cool then, and they certainly aren't cool now. And they have like some 90s references. There's a very famous Bill Clinton joke in the Sega CD version of Lunar 2 that, maybe later didn't land. But even when I went back to play those when I was older, I was like, oh, this is just like sort of a product of its time. And I was alive. So I still think that's kind of funny, but it doesn't age it. And some people complain that it pulls them out. So they did some work on this localization, though, to mitigate some of that.
To people who say that things like the Bill Clinton joke and things like that destroy the game and destroy the integrity of the game, destroy the integrity of the world, I just finished replaying Chrono Trigger. Dalton at one point says, "Houston, we have liftoff." Like, this is just something that kind of happened in the 90s, where there were pop culture references put into these games that didn't quite make sense in the context of the world, but worked as shorthand for the audience so they knew exactly how to interpret that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that as it was like localization was sort of like the Wild Wild West back then, it was going anywhere from Ted Woolsey to Breath of Fire 2 to this. So it was all over the place. It was all over the shop. And so I think that the fact that it was willing to press the boundaries maybe too far to some people is really important to the history of the medium. I think it's by far the most important thing about these games, actually, really from a Western perspective.
Absolutely. And the fact that I guess that there were some jokes that didn't land properly for some people, and the light touch, it really shows that they cared. This was not a simple pounded out localization. Like, they really put a lot of work into this.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think that's a big reason why those delays, which were significant, happened for both titles, for the PS1 in particular.
Yeah. One of the things that I loved about the original games is the voice acting. Well, not the original games, the PlayStation versions, is the voice acting. The voice acting could intentionally be cheesy in that 90s anime way, but it was good. It was interesting, and it actually like really drew you into the world. One of the things that was, I guess, a little controversial about this remastered collection is that they have an all new voice cast. What did you make of them? Was there anything that was really jarring to you, or did everyone do a pretty good job?
I thought they were all fine. Like it was all, I think the way that I phrased it in my review was like that it's slightly more naturalistic. Like it definitely doesn't have some of that super over the top, 90s dub anime stuff that you would have heard back then. But it also doesn't have a lot of pop. I think about someone like Leo, and it's just like Leo just like sounds like a normal dude and doesn't have like this weirdly deep voice as he's, looking down and lecturing Hero. I think that probably, interestingly, I think that the guy who plays Galleon, I don't have any of the names off the top of my head, and I won't go into who Galleon is, I guess, from a large perspective. But in the original, I think almost everybody who's a fan of Lunar, a guy named John Truitt, did the Sega CD and the PS1 versions, and everybody just loves his work. And he still actually works as a voice actor occasionally. But the replacement for him, I think, is actually pretty good. But like, I can't separate it out. Interestingly, like Troy Baker plays Galleon in the PSP version of Lunar Silver Star, and I still don't like it as much.
That's an interesting piece of casting.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? So I think overall it's fine. And if I think that Gio might have said this in his Coming This Week article, I think if you haven't played the originals, it's not going to really bother you. But if you have played them, like I'm sure if you buy it for PC, someone's going to mod it in, right? So like if you really want to get those voices, then just buy it for PC, and I guarantee that mod will be out there like the day after the game comes out.
Speaking of the new voices, I'm just curious, how does Boat Song sound?
Oh, it's great. The woman who plays Luna sings it, and she's definitely trying to imitate. I can't remember the name of the Luna voice actress or the person who sings that song. She does Lucia's songs in Eternal Blue. But anyway, it's you can tell it's a different person, but it sounds the same and it still has that same punch.
I don't know if you'll actually. What am I talking about? You're a Lunar fan. You all know this. Which version of the opening theme lyrics did they use?
The PS1 versions.
Oh, thank God.
I mean, basically, and we didn't get into this too much, but the scripts are largely the same, except for, we're getting rid of some of those 90s references, not using, I don't know, the R slur. So good things, I think, mostly. Then it goes down to the lyrics as well.
I'm really, really happy about that because the opening of the game is just pure magic in such a goofy way. And then it wasn't one of the weirdest things because they even got the original singer to sing the new version of the song with much more accurately translated lyrics. And it just kind of literally lost something in translation, where the more accurate lyrics missed the nonsensical interpretation of the beginning of the opening.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it's great. It's awesome.
It's fantastic.
It's awesome. Well, this is a remaster, and one of the big things about remasters is quality of life and how they update it. I wanted to ask about the differences between the classic and remastered visuals in the game.
So the way it works, and it's kind of unique, you can't switch between it like in game. Like you have to basically choose it as a launcher. You'll get like 4 options, like play Lunar 1 Classic or Lunar Remastered. And the Classic one is basically just trying to imitate exactly as it would have looked under CRT. Of course, unless you're actually playing on a CRT, it's not going to look the same. But so it kind of blocks it out in the middle of the screen, like so it lowers the resolution from like it's not filling up even a 4:3, and it has like a border around it. The animated cutscenes look basically the same as I remember them. I spent maybe 5 minutes in it just to see what it looked like, and I was like, no, the remaster just looks better. So I went back to the remaster, but it looks the same.
Did the animated cutscenes look a little better
in the remastered version?
Yeah, I'm assuming they did AI upscaling.
Oh yeah, I mean, like everything for the visuals with both of them. Like obviously it looks a little bit better, but it basically maintains the look in the remastered version. It's in widescreen, it's a little brighter, but it is the animated cutscenes that just there's an enormous difference if you compare like side by side what it looks like in the classic version.
Well, yeah, the original would have been like 480p.
Yeah, I mean, I think not even that. I think, and the remastered versions, like they obviously spent a lot of time, however they did it, whether it was AI upscaling or whatever, making sure they look a lot cleaner and a lot better. And so all that like sort of magic that you remember from 97, thought it looked like so incredible. They managed to update it in a way that maintains that.
That is the best kind of remaster, where it looks as you remember it looking.
Yeah, for sure.
Some other quality of life features that you mentioned in the review are you can update, you can speed up the battle speed, which I imagine improves the grind considerably.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game changer in those games because, because of the nature of the combat in those games where everybody's like moving around to the different enemies and, and they're firing off spells. And we're not talking like Final Fantasy VII spells, but the spells still take a second. It's funny because I just came off of playing this weekend in remasters where, in those games, like the fights are already fast. So it's nice, I guess, to speed them up, but who really cares? Here, it makes a huge difference. Especially because the AI is pretty good in both. I
think the difference that I am most excited about is the fact they got rid of individual inventories and there's now a shared inventory.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you actually have the option. Like if you want to stick with the OG inventory style, you can do that. And there was already a shared inventory in Lunar 2, but in Lunar 1, I mean, it makes a huge difference. You can just stack up on those starlights, especially because they got rid of working designs like scaling for the money, which made you be poor a lot more often in those games. And so you're rolling with like 40 starlights into a dungeon. You can just fire off everything as you're walking through the dungeon and still go in full bore into the bosses. So as a person who's experienced the original grind, and I sort of appreciate the difficulty in retrospect, it made you inventory manage and stuff like that. I don't really need that nowadays.
The soundtrack, obviously, we mentioned Luna, the boat song. Was the soundtrack updated at all, or is it chiptunes? Like, what are we listening to?
It's the same. It's not chiptunes. It's probably like MIDI music. There's one new song that Itaware, the original composer, came back to do, and it's just the title screen for the collection. But nice. Otherwise, it is exactly the same as you remember it. Again, I actually think that the PS1 is music is slightly worse than the Sega CD music for both games, but it's still great, and it's still a fun tune every time. And I love the overworld music of both games, and so it always makes me feel nostalgic. So it's good.
Our conversation is the question I asked a second ago with the inventory actually cued off a question that I was thinking about, which is you also very recently reviewed the Suikoden remasters 1 and 2.
Yeah.
I'm curious, because you're in a unique position to do this, how would you compare the two remasters of there's 2 games in each, but how would you compare the approach for each? And which one do you like more? It's
funny that you asked that question, because when I was thinking about how I was going to write my review, I originally considered even kind of talking about that, but then I was like, it's not an evergreen way of talking about it. But I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. I think that on the whole, the Lunar remaster is more successful because it addresses some of the real concerns. Don't get me wrong, like the Suikoden remasters, especially the updated localization to 2, while not perfect, as I think a significant improvement over what you got before. But other than that, like they didn't fix any of the legitimate complaints that I think people might have had about those games. And some of the fixes are weird, like, speeding up music, which apparently they're going to patch, the save room autosave thing, which they didn't mention in the patch notes that they're bringing out. I'm like, what's wrong with you? So I still think that probably on the whole, more work went into the Suikoden remasters, like the updated character portraits in 1. Like that's more work than I think that they really did on anything in these Lunar remasters. But they fixed things that I thought were legitimate problems with Lunar remasters, right? Like you have, slower battles sped up. You had AI that you couldn't really manipulate in the Silver Star, and you're able to do that now, where you can really control what they do. You have that shared inventory, and no one's going to, complain about the visuals either. Like I know that, some people are like, oh, the Suikoden remasters look like trash. And some people are like, oh, they look amazing. No one has nuance on the internet, but, I think here everyone's like, well, it pretty much looks like that, but better. And everybody, I think, kind of likes that original look. I think a lot of people do, at least. And so I think that the Lunar remasters, especially given the fact that they addressed the localization in the way that I would have wanted them to, I think are generally more successful as a remaster, even if I still think that Suikoden 1 or 2 are better games as a package.
Well, one thing we can definitely say is people who grew up in the PSX era of RPGs around 97, 98, 99, 2000, they've been eating very well the last month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, I can't believe that if you told me like even 20 years ago that I would come work for RPGFan and I would get to review Suikoden 1 and 2 and then Lunar 1 and 2 back to back, I would have told you were high. And the fact that they happened at all is amazing. The fact that I had the opportunity to write about them and talk about them is even more amazing. So yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah, you would have been like, wow, the future sounds amazing. And then the modern you would be like, oh, no.
That's the good thing.
Don't break his spirit, Zach. Let him think the future is going to be amazing.
I'll do my best.
Okay, well, I'm going to go on to the discussion question now. I'm going to, more things to look forward to in this great future. I mentioned it early on in the show, how apparently we're getting a remaster or maybe even a remake. Rumors are bounding around about Elder Scrolls Oblivion. People are talking about how it's running the original game, but it's running like an Unreal 4 layer on top of it, which is interesting and will definitely screw up modding. But one of the things that really kind of made me go, that's interesting, is Bethesda, and specifically Todd Howard, has historically been against remakes and remasters, which is apparently why we haven't seen anything about Fallout 3 or New Vegas for years and years and years. I mean, New Vegas has another developer, but Bethesda owns it. This appears to have changed now with Oblivion. And obviously, Oblivion, people love Skyrim, but for most people, their Elder Scrolls love started with Oblivion. I think that this has the potential to be something really, really great. What do you think would have changed Todd's mind? And if this does come out, which it will, Would you be interested in playing it?
So I have the most cynical response possible, which is money. Capitalism.
Todd Howard likes money? No.
Capitalism. And, they haven't really brought out a lot of games recently. They haven't had a hit in a while. And you got to keep the cash flowing somehow.
I'm not saying this Starfield slander on this show.
yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying that I have a problem with, obviously I just talked about, remasters, and I appreciate games that are remastered. But I think that, like many things, people's ethics and morals, if you want to call them that in this case, go out the window when truckloads of money get dumped on your doorstep, such is the nature of modern economics.
And in his defense, this particular incentive has been there for many, many, many years now, and he has resisted it. That's
true.
I do think you're right, though. I think this might be in case of emergency break glass sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like maybe they've been holding this in look, there's no way in hell that they were all the work that was put into Starfield, that Bethesda didn't have a clue that maybe this wasn't going to live up to expectations. So maybe that's one of the reasons why they kind of pushed this into development. And like Bethesda proper isn't doing it.
I'm just surprised that they didn't do this for Fallout New Vegas or Fallout 3 when the TV show came out.
Yeah, I was about to say the same thing. That was like the best timing and opportunity for them.
Oh my God, yeah. So it was. I remember at the time I was like, what is Bethesda doing? I don't think Bethesda or Amazon realized the level of a hit that Fallout was going to end up being, because if they did, I think they would have had something lined up. I thought they hoped it was going to be good, but then it became like one of the best reviewed and most watched shows of 2024. And they were like, oh crap, what do we got? Oh, we've got Fallout 76. Okay.
I love that both of our first assignments at RPGFan were Fallout 76 related, Jono, which is the only 4 hours of a Bethesda game I've ever really played. So,
well, don't let that define it. I assure you. No, you're absolutely right. There are a few running gags on Random Encounter since I took over, and there is Fallout 76, and my opinion of it is certainly one of them. The other being that I bring Yakuza into everything, and I hate Saga. I want to know what, Gio and Tin, you bring up a really interesting point, and based on this, I wouldn't be surprised if they have somebody working on a remaster for Fallout 3 that they could maybe time to release with Season 2 of Fallout.
Yes, or New Vegas.
I wish they would do New Vegas. New Vegas would make more sense because the second season is going to New Vegas.
Yeah.
Well, Fallout New Vegas is coming to Retro Encounter soon. That bodes well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the fact it's because that's the retro.
That's the trick.
Curse. Is it a curse or is it a prophecy?
I think it's a prophecy.
Yes. Whenever a game gets featured on retro, chances are there's going to be a remake or a re-release of it a couple of weeks later. I personally would love to see I'd love to see them take on New Vegas and basically fix it, so you don't have to like patch it with a ton of fan mods and everything to make it run properly. Although God knows if they released New Vegas and it was just as broken as it was originally, that would actually be really funny. They could do exactly what they did with Lunar. They could have like the remaster version and then the classic version, and the classic version could have all the bugs still in it. And get the original experience of falling through the map.
That would be like the sort of marketing they would do for Fallout, though. It would be funny.
Yeah, it matches. Mm-hmm.
That would be hysterical. I was a little bit surprised that in the show they didn't have some tongue-in-cheek wink, wink, nudge, nudge about how broken the games often are. Like someone just like falls through the map and they're like, what happened? And it's like quicksand or something.
They should do that in Season 2.
Yeah, just little nods.
They should have someone like with their side quest getting bugged so they can't finish it or something. So they're like wandering aimlessly.
Or like Lucy just shoots someone and they get sent miles into the air. And they're just like, wow, I guess the gun's more powerful than I thought it was. All right. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming on the show today and talking about these games. This particular lineup is one that I was really excited about because Blueprints looks just amazing, and I love the Lunar games. And because of that, I was just delighted to have everyone on the show. And who knows, because we've gotten this remaster of Lunar and we're getting remasters of Oblivion, Zach, maybe we might get a remaster of Magic School.
I mean, maybe. I mean, people were like complaining, like, "Oh, I want Magic School." I'm like, I don't think that's going to be a big seller here, but
I don't think it's
good
gonna
luck,
be a big
buddies.
seller either.
No one wants Dragon Song, at least.
It'd be a better seller than Dragon Song, that's for damn sure. I'm surprised that Dragon Song wasn't just included as like an extra on this. Just to get somebody to play it.
It would literally make the package cheaper. It would bring down the value.
The score is plummeting very quickly back. The score of this remaster is plummeting to your...
It would actually probably impact the Metascore. So, I mean, if you think about it that way.
Yeah, if this included Dragon Song, the score would be the same as the Silver Star review.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, if anyone out there would like to support us here at RPG Fan, we've opened up a store. You can find it at www.rpgfan.com/shop. Lots of things on there, including our collaboration with Hyperplay RPG. It's a showcase of nearly 300 of our review cards, as you can see on Instagram. I know this is a difficult topic. We still don't really know how tariffs are going to affect the shop. So, enjoy, shop, be merry. You can also check out our past episodes of Random Encounter, which do not have any tariffs on them whatsoever. Last week, we were chatting about the Switch 2. A lot has happened since that conversation about the Switch 2 regarding pre-orders and tariffs and some baffling PR missteps by Nintendo. But the nice thing about this episode is you would get our unvarnished first impressions on that episode, and they were quite positive, actually. We were very, very excited. We were very excited when we were that young. We also have Retro Encounter, which last week it was the BioWare draft. And Zach, you handed this one off to Wes for the week, right?
I did. They did an amazing job. It was a fun listen, even as a person who, I will say now, I am like 10 hours into Mass Effect 1 now. That's how good the episode was.
You're playing Mass Effect 1?
I am.
How are you enjoying it?
I like it better after the first 3 hours. Once you get out of the Citadel, I'm like, okay, this is better, because the writing is kind of flat in my opinion for the first 3 hours, and it just gets better after that.
Wait until I know this is people hate when you say this thing.
Wait until Mass Effect 2.
Wait until Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is when it gets like unbelievably good. That is not saying that Mass Effect 1 is not an awesome game, though. I'm really excited you're playing it. That's really cool.
I'm enjoying it.
Awesome. We also have Rhythm Encounter, which is RPG Fan's music podcast. Our last episode was a quarterly music update. Tin and Gio, you are regular contributors to Rhythm Encounter. And we very much appreciate that because your takes on the songs are always interesting and fascinating. And please continue to go on.
True story.
Thank you very much. We will.
Excellent. If you'd like to get in contact with us here, you can fire me off a message at podcast@rpgfan.com. If you have any suggestions for future episode ideas, discussion questions, just want to give us some feedback, anything you'd like to share, fire me off a message. If you'd like to send me an email, you can do so at jlogan@rpgfan.com. You can also find me on Blue Sky at jonologan.bluesky.social. I'm not the only person on here with a social media presence. Gio, where can we find you online?
Yeah, you can find me on Discord. I go by Tenbistar, TenBistar, or you can find me via email, gio@rpgfan.com.
Cool. Tin, where can we find you?
Same as Gio, you can find me in the RPG Fan Discord. I'm literally named as Tin there, and you can shoot me a message at tin@rpgfan.com.
Cool. And Zach?
The best way is probably email, zachw@rpgfan.com. You can also find me on Discord as ZachW.
Am I the only one on Blue Sky?
I'm like technically on Blue Sky, but I'm a teacher, so it's all closed down. I can't really like share my opinions. So
I am on Blue Sky. I'm also Tenbistar there, but
you rarely use it.
I'm not super active on there.
Given the future that we live in, Zach, it's probably best that you do not share your opinions on Blue Sky.
Yeah.
I have some hope. I have some hope today. Yesterday and today were yesterday was the French language debate, and today was the English language debate for Prime Minister for the election. And while it's so funny, the CBC was like, oh, there was some contentious debate. And I'm like, are you kidding me? The level of civility has been unseen for years in politics, which was really nice. It was people who disagreed with each other and were a little bit, spicy at times, but it was like, oh God, this was a political debate where people were actually debating ideas. And it was, oh my God, I'm so happy that I live in a functioning democracy. If you enjoyed this podcast, please, sorry, Zach. If you enjoy this podcast, please share it with your friends. Help us get the word out there and rate us on iTunes or your other podcast player of choice. Everyone out there, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. And I would really like to thank Gio, Tin, and Zach for joining me here.
Thanks for having
glad
me.
to be here.
I very much enjoyed spending the very beginning of the Easter weekend with you. And to everyone out there, whatever you're playing, have fun.